It's the sure sign of a good time. The just right taste of Bud Light. Here we go.
This is the Coach's Scouting Report, featuring Coach Rick Venturi on 101sports.com.
Welcome in one final time to the Scouting Report for 2011, along with 27-year NFL coaching veteran Rick Venturi. I'm Zach McCright. The 49ers, already division champs, come in to the Edward Jones Dome trying to lock down a first-round bye and home field in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Coach, defensively, the game plan for the Rams, we always usually start with special teams, maybe catching a break there.
Yeah, I think we'll start with special teams because you can't afford to give this team an edge. This team does not score a ton of points. They kick a million field goals, so you can't give them a big play here or there. You got to make them work for it, and I'm relatively sure you'll be in the game. If Ginn doesn't play, which we don't think he will, if Kyle Williams doesn't play, then they're really hurting on the return game. So this is a big advantage with the Rams. Now, Donnie Jones can kick it. You go down, cover it. Maybe you change field position. So I think this, the past few weeks, because it's been so poor, and I've almost coached defensively, like, please don't give this up. Kick it down there, go cover whoever's done it, and maybe you turn the field over. Maybe you get a big play.
Now, defensively, it all starts with Frank Gore.
Yeah, you got to stop Frank, and you got to stop him in what I call downhill runs between the tackles. They are very simple offense. I mean, they're going to run the powers, the leads, the zones, and even when they toss it, it comes inside. And they want to get Frank downhill. Now, the toughest part you have with Frank is they got a good offensive line in front of him, and he runs low and thrusting. That guy can get down to about 2 foot off the ground. So you have to play with great pad level, and you got to cluster him because he can hit a home run. Now, the Rams did a really good job. They really bottled up Gore for a long period of that game in the first one.
Right. Now, if let's say there's become some passing situations for the 49ers, how do the Rams stop the pass?
Well, I think the two things that you've got to stop on early downs, along with Gore, are what I call perimeter plays. Right. One thing is, with Delaney Walker out, Ginn out, Williams out, you really have two deep threats, okay? You got a deep threat in Crabtree, and you got a deep threat in Vernon Davis. Now, Vernon Davis is pretty much a down-the-middle guy, so safety stay high, corners stay high on Crabtree. Don't let him have anything easy. The other thing, if you remember game one, and it's something that I worry about, is once the Rams stopped Gore up inside, then the 49ers came with those perimeter sweeps to Ginn, ends around. So hold your edges. Yes, you're going to have an 8-man box. Yes, you're going to play downhill, but be very disciplined on the edges. Don't go chasing inside with those edge guys, or you're going to give up a big place. The 49ers really turned the game around in the third quarter with 2 sweeps to receivers and tight ends and the bomb to Crabtree. That was it. Up until that point, the Rams defense was holding the line.
All right, so now the question becomes, how do you get to Alex Smith?
Well, if you can get him in known pass situations, I'm convinced if he has to win the game in those negative situations, he can still implode. I think they've done a great job with him, but he is who he is. He's imploded before. He can be erratic, and he can be frenetic. He can run around and do some silly things. Their offensive line is built to run block. They're big road graders, particularly on the right side. Between Snyder and Davis, they have issues with pass rush. You saw it in the Baltimore game when they got behind. The Rams' defensive line could dominate in these situations. Also, if they get behind, they have had trouble with blitzes throughout the season. Now, because they play a header tight, they don't see them week in and week out. But as you saw in Baltimore, as I've seen in other games this season, exotic blitzes tend to get them because they're just not structured that way. So stop Gore, perimeter big plays, and then get after them on passing downs.
Okay, so now let's take a look at the offensive side of things for the Rams. Look, it's been tough sledding offensively for the Rams this year, but if we are to run the ball, which you kind of do, right? You want to try to eat up clock. How do you do it?
Well, you have to because of who you are. You have one really premier player, is Steven Jackson. So if you got to have your complementary players do some things, but you've got to set it up. If you're going to run the ball, you've got to have diversity. A little bit like the Seattle game that was played in Seattle. The Rams came out, they ran some toss cracks, they ran some misdirection. They established Jackson on the outside. Not so much in the amount of yardage, but they established the fact that they were going to do it. They were going to emphasize it. Because when you play the Niners, they're inside 5. when you look at Justin Smith and Sapo Aga, and then you look at McDonald, you look at the inside tandem, if Willis can play along with Bowman, that's tough sledding in there. But if you loosen them up with perimeter plays, now you can come back and run your whams, run your leads, run your zone plays, much like they did in Seattle, that type of running game. Now, move your quarterback, okay? Move him on early downs. A lot of bootlegs, a lot of half rolls. Get him out of the single launch point where they can just tee off and go. And the other thing is, I've been advocating, they did it one time to Austin Pettis in the first game, quick screens. Get out on those big outside backers, Harrelson, Brooks. Those guys are paid to rush the passer and be in the box. Make their corners win the game and make those two hybrids win the game.
Do it more screens.
Right.
I like the screens.
If you watch a college game today, the quick screen or the tunnel screen, they may be run between 10 and 20 times. Don't do it one time and quit. Get some repetition on them. Again, the biggest thing you got to do is get the 49ers out of the phone booth. If you are stubborn and think you can just hammer and play them in the phone booth, you're not going to come out of it.
Okay, there's going to be some times where you're going to have to keep Kellen Clemens in the pocket. In those spots, how do you protect him? How do you keep him upright?
This is the Rams' biggest nightmare and has been all season long because they have offensive line issues and they have receiver speed issues. So long yardage is tough duty. To me, it always comes back to execution of three things, okay? First of all, screen the ball to Jackson. This is where you got to get Jackson in space with screen passes. Number two, what we call dash, which is kind of a dinosaur play where you take your quarterback and you predetermine scramble to a side. You bring blockers, you seal the line, and now you buy time to get open downfield. When you're not doing those two things, you've got to go max protection. Now, most of the time, I talk max protection because I'm worried about blitz pickups, which, the Rams have been awful all season long. But this week, this is not a big blitz team, but they will bring now Aldon Smith into the game, who is a beast. I mean, he's trying to break the rookie record here in the last game. This guy is phenomenal. They can line him up outside, inside. He can stunt. He is a terrific pass rusher. Now you pair him up there with Justin Smith, and then you still keep a Harrelson in the game, Brooks. You're really playing three hybrids and a beast in Justin Smith. So you're going to be mismatched in there with your offensive line. So even though you don't worry so much about blitzes, I worry about leakage because of the mismatches. So I'm going to keep my quarterback. If I'm going to throw the ball deep from the pocket, I'm going to keep the extra guys in. I'm going to protect it. I'm going to get in bunches so they can't get their hands on my receivers, and I'm going to create three-man layers downfield.
It could happen. I know that sounds crazy, but it could happen. If you can keep the 49ers to some field goals and try to figure out a way to get a touchdown or God forbid, two.
There's no doubt about it. In the end, this basically on paper is in the favor of the Niners. They are depleted a little bit, which makes them less explosive, which I think gives you a chance. And so at the end of the day, it's the same formula. And the Rams have been playing good defense early. They got to push it one more quarter. They got to get it into the fourth quarter. They've got it in the third quarter if they haven't got one in the fourth quarter. If you get it in the fourth quarter, there's going to be a lot of tightness here with the 49ers because they need this game. If they go into the fourth quarter with the Rams tight, anything could happen. You could get the ghost of Alex Smith back, or hopefully the dysfunction of the Singletary regime could come back. So somewhere along the way, you're hoping for that.
Cross your fingers. Along with the coach, Rick Venturi, I'm Zach McCray. All of his stuff will be on 101sports.com. Look around. It's there somewhere right now. Go check it out. Check him out 9 to noon Central Time on the pregame show on 101 ESPN. I'll be on after the game. And then it's on to the draft. We're talking draft, if we haven't already, coming up on 101 ESPN. Thanks for watching the Scouting Report on 101sports.com.